For our sketching project today, I'm going to show you what sketching means in art. We're not looking for a particularly realistic drawing, but a rendering of something. When we think about the shapes in our different things that we're drawing, for example, a goldfish for this lesson, if we look at the overall shape of a goldfish, we're sort of looking at an oblong oval, right, or an ellipse for his body. If you look at their fins, they break down to trapezoids up here on the top, long narrow ones at the bottom with a rounded edge. These ones are sort of triangles, and this one that comes out back is a trapezoid with a bit of a rounded edge, right? And obviously their eyes are very round, face, gills, okay? This fin comes out of here. And then you can worry about adding in all of the other parts of it later. So if you look at the basic shape of a goldfish, that's what you're looking at. So when we're sketching, instead of using tracing paper, what we're doing is we're imagining that. So we have our paper, nearby so that we can see kind of both at the same time. And I can go like this. I'm not drawing on here, but I'm making my hand have some muscle memory as to about how big that fish is when I do that a couple of times like this. So that when I come up here to this paper and I make the same motion, I'm gonna get an image on there, very lightly sketched, of his body. And then I know this part comes up in the middle. So if I look beginning of fish, end of fish, this line right here for his fin, that's right in the middle of him. So when I look at this one, if I imagine that fin comes up right here in the middle, I would go about like that, and it stops before it gets to his tail, right? So I'm gonna stop before it gets to his tail. And then looking at his tail, that's an add-on, right, to my oval out here. And I went a little bit off the page this time. That's okay. Sometimes that happens when we're sketching. Again, it's not going to be perfect. Then I want to look at his bottom fins on there. And if I look again here and here, if this fin starts on his body over here, it's about in the first third. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 of that fish. So if I look at this space here, starts about here and then comes down in that shape. And this little guy here, there's a space. See that gap in there? So I want to have some sort of a gap to show that that one's on the back side, because this is actually the same size as this fin, but it's on the back side so you can't see it. And then the triangular one that's back here. Now if I want to get picky and I look at these, if I put my pencil across here, this fin needs to be a little shorter. This fin needs to be a lot shorter. So if I put my pencil here, did I remember to do that? That one could come down a little bit. That one's nice and short. So I could even drop this one down a little bit more in that sketch. The eyeball goes about here. And again, I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm doing a sketch. So it means that looks sketchy. I can start looking at his mouth and comparing what his mouth looks like. Start adding those parts of him in and refining it a little more. So you see that sketchiness that I'm doing? It looks like my lines are a little messy. That's part of sketching, because we're just trying to get the basic shape and shading of our goldfish in. We don't want him to be perfect. I'll round up some of those because he's got an extra little tip right here. So I'm going to add that in back over here, right there. I'm going to come down and over. So I'm going to keep going and kind of look, right? And it has sort of this pattern on here, and they get a little more slanted towards the end, don't they? Kind of like that. And he's a little darker up around his eyes in the front, so I get sketchy around his eyes. I put the gills in. See, he's got kind of a dark patch right here behind his gills, so I can sketch that in. He's a little darker on the underside. Down here, since that's in the shadows. And then he has these really long ones that come out. And sort of these ones that come out over here. So while he doesn't look exactly like this goldfish, he's starting to look like a goldfish, isn't he? So he has that sketched out characteristic of a goldfish. And I might not even put all his scales in. I might just go in and do something a little loopy for scales, just to indicate that he has them. They're not even the right size, are they? They're really big compared to the goldfish. that's okay. Again, sketching. So as long as we're just sketching and getting the general idea down, that makes him, and I'm going to elongate him a little bit. He should be a little longer up here. Kind of like that. He's got another little patch here of something going on that I can see in there. So that is a sketch of the goldfish. And then if I want, right, I can add some of the stuff in the background, like maybe the bottom of his tank. And I could put in some little seaweed or freshwater weeds back there. And maybe there's a little thing that makes bubbles in his tank. And then, of course, you have to sign your artwork so that it's all ready. That's how you do a sketch.